Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. Chris here. We've got another video, and this is a like a return of video. So this is an HP dv9000, a late 2000s era entertainment laptop, media laptop. So a period of time where making a laptop with a big screen for watching videos and stuff on, but not really for playing games on. And that's really what this was focused towards, is this big laptop. Yeah, so I featured this, I'd say 8 months ago that we had it on. And there was a few comments from people having trouble with getting drivers running on this. One of them was related to drivers for the DGPU, discrete graphics adapter, and this model doesn't have that. It's just got the Windows graphics. So I couldn't help with that, but another one was kind of like, hey, how do you get drivers going on this? So I figured I would do a video today on covering for this model, and it can really work for every system that I'm, go through, is, how do you get Windows drivers running on these older machines? And then what kind of settings do you put on an older computer like this to try and get a little bit better performance out of it? Because it's a dual core processor, it's an older dual core, you only have 4 gig of RAM, the graphics card isn't that great. What am I going to do with all that? So that's what we're going to do here today, is take a look at this. Now, I've already installed Windows 10 on this machine, so this assumes that you know how to get Windows 10 actually up and running on this machine or on any machine. And we're going to take a look first at what kind of settings would I put on this machine or any other machine to make sure Windows 10 is kind of running as well as it possibly could. So quick adjustment here to get up on the screen, and we will start working on that right away. We are now fully loaded into Windows, and as I said, I'm going to kind of go through and discuss some of the changes that I'm going to make. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to clear my taskbar of anything that I really don't need. So Cortana button, goodbye. Task view button, goodbye. I'm going to go to the news and interests tab here, and I'm going to turn it off so I don't get the weather. I'm going to remove any apps that I'm not going to use. So the mail app here, I'm going to unpin from the taskbar. And so all I've got left is my file browser and Microsoft Edge. The next thing I want to do is adjust my notifications bar here. So I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to click, just clear all the notifications here, and I'm going to click expand. So I can see all of these settings here whenever I need to. And then we're going to start getting into doing some other stuff. So right click on your taskbar, and I want you to open up taskbar settings. Give a second for that to open up. And a couple of changes I'm going to make. So scroll down a little bit on here if you don't have it in view. And we will go to select which items appear on the taskbar. I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to select always show icons. So I want to do that because I want to see everything that's down here in the bottom right all the time. That way I know if something's running that I don't want to have running, and I don't have to worry about that bar sliding back and forth all the time. So we'll get back to that in a minute. While we're in this settings page, we're going to take a look at the next part. So next bar up is the start menu. So in the start menu, what I want to do is I'll say I want to show most used apps. I want to turn off the show suggestions, because that helps remove like ads and app suggestions. And then choose which folders appear on the start menu. And I'm just going to turn all these on as well. Now this is a personal choice. You don't have to do this. You can turn all of these off if you're not going to use them, but I like to turn them on just to have them available. Okay, next thing we're going to move up to is colors. And this may take a second to go. And I'm going to do the first thing, I'm going to take the transparency effects, I'm going to turn them off. So all you people, all you folks, what do you mean you people? All you folks who loved Windows Aero and love transparency effects, you got to turn them off, right? Helps with system performance. So turn them off. And I am a dark mode person, so I'm going to switch to dark mode. Again, people may disagree with me on this, but when you've got the darker colors, when your screen is dimmer, you're using less power. And if you're using less power, that's a good thing. So dark mode's got its place. And then the last thing you may want to do, again, and this is going into the same place we talked about switching to dark mode, is you may want to switch to a solid color and choose black as a solid color. So you're going to be all black on the screen. It's going to use the lowest amount of power to brighten that up. That's a personal choice as well. You may want to have a regular background. For the purpose of this video, I am going to go back to a regular picture, but maybe we'll choose the camping picture, right? Which will be a little bit darker, okay? Now I'm going to hit the home button here and go to the main settings page, okay? And we're going to finish off making our settings changes. So I'm going to go on to System. We're going to go to Notifications and Actions, and I'm going to turn off Get Tips and Tricks, Suggest Ways I Can Finish Setting Up My Device, and Show Me the Welcome Experience. This one particularly, you want to always make sure is turned off. It stops Windows from bringing up that like, hey, tell me your Windows settings and let's make sure you have a Microsoft account added to your computer garbage. Assuming that you have set up your system with a local account. So always make sure that's turned off. And after every major update of Windows, this is usually going to get rechecked. So you're going to want to keep turning it off every time. Power and sleep, I've already made these adjustments, but if you're on a laptop, I always want to turn off my screen settings here and my sleep settings and adjust them accordingly. So for me, on any of these older laptops, I turn off the screen stuff and just say, you know what, on battery mode, I want you to turn off after 5 minutes. Just go to sleep. Don't worry about turning off the screen. And when you're plugged in, so don't worry about it. So consider making those changes. For storage, you might want to consider turning on Storage Sense. That's a personal choice. I leave it off unless the hard drive that I'm using is very small. So like those older netbooks that have like the eMMC storage, or an older computer that's only got like a 40 or 60 gig hard drive, I might do it. But we've got like, usually I try to have like 160 or larger size hard drives. Storage Sense really isn't necessary in those cases, but something to consider as well. Scroll down to the bottom here and go to the About section. And here's what I want to note. So if I go to Remote Desktop, you can see here it's not supported on Windows 10 Home Edition. But if I go to About, and I scroll down here and I go to Advanced System Settings. In Advanced System Settings, when I go to Remote, you do have the ability, see it's checked here, to allow remote assistance. And this is for support stuff that there's still the ability to get access. I'm going to uncheck that, and that makes sure there's no remote assistance at all available on this system. While I'm here, I'm also going to go to the Advanced tab in System Properties, go to Settings, and I'm going to make one of the major changes that can help out, especially if you have a lower quality graphics card, is I'm going to change the performance options here for graphics to best performance. And that's going to turn off all the like peak and transparencies and keep the window while scrolling and smooth the edges of fonts. You know, it makes everything look a little less sharp, but it's still a good idea to use. So that's it for those settings. The next thing I'm going to do here is just to clean up the taskbar area. So down at the bottom here where I got the mouse right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take OneDrive. And if you're using OneDrive, you're going to obviously keep this up and running. But if you're not using OneDrive, if you're not taking advantage of any cloud storage from Microsoft, which you probably aren't, I know I don't, you're going to go to Settings. I'm going to uncheck the Start OneDrive automatically when I sign into Windows. Close that. And then I'm going to right click on OneDrive again, and I'm going to close OneDrive. It's going to say, hey, you don't want to close me, do you? Yes, I do. Now OneDrive will never open and run again on your system. And then the next thing to do is the Meet Now, I'm going to hide. So now I've only got the icons on the bottom here that I need to have, and I'm good to go. Let's open up our Windows security here. You're probably going to get these alerts every once in a while when you first install the system. It's going to say, hey, do you want to set up OneDrive? No, it won't ask you again once you've clicked dismiss on the OneDrive thing, usually. And do you want to sign in for a Microsoft account? No. Do I want to enable app and browser control? Sure. I want to have security on my system. That's never a bad thing. And we've got those security settings taken care of. So that's it. That's as far as I go as far as setting up Windows. Obviously, if you're going to install like Google Chrome or something, there's some apps or add-ons that you might want to use for Chrome to improve your performance a little bit, but this is pretty much the way we're going to go. So the second part of this video is where we're going to talk about getting drivers installed on this machine. So if we take a look at Device Manager right now, I've installed Windows and I've run all the Windows updates. So it's up to the latest version of Windows and Defender and all that. The only drivers that have been installed are the ones that Windows just naturally picked up on its own. And you're going to see here, there's going to be a couple of items that are going to be missing. These base system devices and one unknown device in the system. And you will notice here, again, for the person that has graphics card issues, if you've got the regular iGPU, like the integrated graphics, that's this Intel 965 Express chipset. Windows automatically picked that up and installed it. If you have a discrete graphics adapter, which I think for this one was an NVIDIA adapter maybe, you should be able to find the Windows 7 drivers for that graphics card and try installing those in the system. That usually will work. Now, obviously, they're down-level drivers, so they're not going to be up to date for handling the latest, greatest games or anything like that, but they will actually be running at least, so you're not going to be using the Microsoft Basic Display Adapter. So what we're going to do when you've run into this situation on this computer or any other one, we're going to go first to Windows Update. And the reason why we're going to go to Windows Update is because sometimes what Windows Update will do is it will have, we know we don't want to run Windows 11. You're going to have this button here. So you can see we've got check for updates. It's not going to find anything because I've already updated all the way. But see, we've got view optional updates. Click on that and you're going to see driver updates. And there's going to be some updates here that are available for your system that Windows didn't necessarily automatically download. So I'm going to check all these and it's going to install some additional stuff here. It's going to install some additional drivers for the sound card. It's going to draw drivers here for the modem that this system, it's an older system and has a modem. And then there's going to be quick launch buttons for the system from Hewlett-Packard. So we're going to do this installation and it will probably require us to do a reboot afterwards. I'm going to assume specifically those Hewlett-Packard quick launch buttons drivers, I'm pretty sure is going to ask us to reload the system once it's done. But even if it doesn't, we're going to reload anyway, just to be fresh and see what it found and what it didn't find. And then we'll take our next step on doing driver updates with a tool that can help many people with older computers to be able to get their drivers up and running. Okay, so we're all done with the installation of these drivers. If I click on check for updates one more time, we'll see if it's got anything for us to update again. No, okay. We're going to check our restart here. And when we get back into Windows again, we'll have another look at the device manager and see what has been covered of those 4 missing items and what has not. Windows is now finished up and running. Still some background apps loading up, but we should be able to continue. So if I right click on the start menu, we can select Device Manager and it will let us know if we have successfully removed any of these driverless hardware components. Survey says 1. So our unknown device is now gone, but our 3 base system devices are still requiring drivers. So that's going to lead us to our second driver help tool. Windows Update obviously being the first of the driver update tools that we've used. I'm going to open up Microsoft Edge, and I believe this may be the first time since I've reloaded Windows on this machine that Edge has been started, so we may have to go through that startup menu here. I'll just wait for that to get up and running, and I'll click through all those items and then we'll get going. All right, so what I want you to do is go to a website called majorgeeks.com. And Major Geeks is a great resource for computer users who are looking for great little tools and tweaks and information, etc. for your computer. And if you want to be able to go and take a look and see, you know, feedback on whether or not an app or something works or doesn't work, and what the pluses and minuses are, and, you know, does this free, quote unquote, free tool have any hidden charges or malware or adware or any other stuff in it, they'll let you know. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, helpful for you to be able to know what's going on. So, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a tool called Snappy Driver Installer Origin. It's important that you search specifically for Snappy Driver Installer Origin, because that is the tool that is a fork of the other Snappy Driver installer. And this is important to note. There is a Snappy Driver installer that exists that has had like adware and malware and stuff added to it. So it's not really the greatest thing for you to take. Whereas Snappy Driver Installer Origin has the stuff that you want. It's a fork of the original Snappy Driver installer that maintains the initial, you know, we just want to get our drivers installed, period. So come look for this, and you want to download it, okay? There's a zip that you can do, and then there's also some driver packs that you can get. So just download the zip. I don't want to add, I just want to download. Please just let me download. Sites don't pay for themselves, right? So we're going to wait for this to load. It takes a couple seconds, obviously, and then we've got our download happening. Microsoft Edge kind of has this like circle completing to let you know if the download's working. Okay, you can see our download is now completing. It's all done. I'm going to open up my Windows Explorer here, and we're going to navigate to the download section where we've got our file here. Now, I have it installed. I usually install a couple of tools on every computer that goes out. One of them being 7-zip, which has some good context menus for doing unzipping, but we're just going to use the regular Windows integrated extraction tool for compressing and uncompressing files. So you're going to want to uncompress the SDIO zip file, and then you're going to want to run this. So there's two versions of the application. There's SDIO_R738, which is the 32-bit version of this app, and then there's a 64-bit version. Now we've installed obviously a 64-bit version of Windows. You're going to want the 64-bit version instead. This will work in older computers. You get these Microsoft Smart Screens saying here, because it's an unsigned app, I say run it anyway, because I do trust that Snappy Driver Installer Origin is a safe app to run, specifically the Origin version, except the UELA. And then you're going to get a firewall detection. You're going to want to allow access through the firewall so it can actually go out and find information. And then there's three ways that it can do this when it's going to run. It can just download all the drivers that it has, which is like 20 gig worth of information. You can download network drivers only, which is basically if I just want to grab all the drivers for every network card in existence, which is like 1 gig worth of information. or I want to download the indices only. And this is the one that I'm going to use here because I'm already connected to the internet, right? And I only want to get the drivers for my system. So you're going to give it a second and it's going to find, it's going to have already said, oh, I have these 3 system devices that I can't find. And it's going to do a search of its driver database now. And it's going to find, you can see the status here, it's going to see what it can find as far as drivers that meet the base system information for each of these devices. Because Device Manager has some information on what the hardware is. Like there's little codes and hexadecimal things in the background that says this is what I am. But it doesn't know like a name, like I'm this device. It just knows this is what I am, this is where I'm connected, these are the interrupts I use. Snappy Driver Installer is going to relate those and say, oh, here's what all this stuff is. I've got my SD MMC card reader, I've got my picture card reader, I've got my memory stick controller, I've got my Realtek PCIe FE family controller, I've got high definition audio and a touchpad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these and I'm going to say, what do I think needs to be installed? I'm going to install my controller and these 3 Rico things. I'm not going to select everything. And the reason why I want to do that is I already know my Realtek stuff got installed by Windows, and I already have my touchpad running right down here. Synaptics pointing device has already been installed by Windows. So I don't want to reinstall those if I don't have to, but I know these 3 things are probably the what I need to go with. So I'm going to install those. And so what'll happen now is the Snappy and Driver Installer Origin, it'll go and download now those specific drivers because it just downloaded the indexes to start, which was just like the little files that correlate the, the hardware information to an actual driver. Now it's going to download the actual driver files, which is 96 megabytes worth of information, much smaller than 19 gigabytes worth of driver file information. You would download that one if you were going to build like a USB key with all the drivers on it and have that available to be able to do like setting up a computer without being online all the time, which can be helpful depending on where you're located in the world, right? And how easy it is for you to access internet on a regular basis. So now what's happened is it's downloaded those drivers and now it's going to start installing for those as well, which will take a couple minutes, obviously, to install that information. So we'll come back once it's finished doing all of that. Installation is now complete. If I go back to our device manager and let that load up, we now have no unfound devices, right? So all drivers have now been installed. We are complete. So we can close that off. And once you're finished with installing those, you can delete SDIO off your computer, right? It's one of those tools that you only use it, when you're getting the installations done. And then once it's done, it's done. It is something that you could install on a USB key if you wanted and just have it ready to go to plug in. I actually have it saved on my network drive, and what I do when I set up a system is I'll just go and FTP server over to it and pull all those files over and run it all that way. Yeah. The last thing I want to show you, this is from a speed up thing, and I just wanted to save it to the end for you to see, was if you go to your hard disk drive right here and click on properties, the last thing you may want to consider doing is down at the bottom here, this checkbox, allow files on this drive to have contents indexed in addition to file properties. You may want to consider unchecking this and allowing it to run to stop doing that indexing. And it'll say, hey, do you want to do it for everything? Yes, I want to do it for everything. And I want to say I want to do it. This will take a while to do. So just follow this, ignore all, and let it go through and let it run. The reason why I do this is for things like Windows Search, which basically no one ever uses because it doesn't work properly anyway, having the system constantly indexing every time you make a change to the computer, right? Like update something, install something, browse on your Chrome and have it record the history, it's going to be updating that index file. And that's compute cycles and drive cycles that you don't need to waste on a low-end computer. So remove that indexing. Yes, it means if you do want to use Windows Search or you want to search from the file menu, it's going to take longer to do. But let's be honest, how often are you actually doing that? You know where all your stuff is being kept. You keep everything on your My Documents folder or your Downloads folder or your Pictures folder or your desktop or a folder right off the C drive. Just find it. this will help save some drive cycles and compute cycles. So consider doing that as well. And that's it. That's the whole thing, right? But both getting your Windows set up and giving a little bit better performance on a lower end computer, as well as getting all your drivers taken care of. I hope you have found this useful and helpful. If so, you know, please give it a like, share it with your friends who may have the same problem in the future. As always, I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.